been an amazing week here on the Space Coast. And as you show that rocket launch once again, it never gets old. It's spectacular. And it's just what shows what America can do when we put our effort into something this important.
And I've been showing it time and time again here over the last, I would say, 36 hours or so since it happened, because it is so cool to watch, especially considering how long it's been since we've gone to the moon, toward the moon, and obviously a lot of people are excited about this. Can you explain for folks out there who are watching how significant Artemis II and the Artemis operation in general really is?
Boy, I think that's a great point, Josh. And this is all about America coming together, showing our technological capabilities, and eventually becoming the dominant force, of course, in space. We've not been on the moon, of course, since 1972. The first Artemis mission a couple of years ago went around the moon without astronauts, testing our rocket system called the SLS out, and, of course, the Orion spacecraft. And so we are preparing for roughly 2 years from now, heading back to the moon, landing on the moon with astronauts, and creating a moon base. But this is a big deal for NASA and, of course, the United States, because, as you know, just a few years ago under President Obama, they got rid of the shuttle program. And a lot of people said, what will be the future of space for the United States? We have stepped up since then. We have not just incredible, strong NASA program, we also have a strong private system. That means SpaceX, Blue Origin, ULA, companies like that. L3 Harris, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. These are the companies that make this incredible space industry strong. And it helps not just, of course, with telecommunications that you and I are joining right now, but also the idea of the realities of the military. It's those rocket systems that launch our satellites up to make sure that we have the GPS for our military and, of course, enjoy some of the technology we have right now. So it's a big deal. And again, to see the astronauts find so much success because of the team effort put forth by NASA, it's just a remarkable sight. And I think almost 500,000 people were right there at launch date, including me. I was right there, just enjoying the power of that rocket. And of course, the celebration of America coming together.
And of course, we have these live images coming in from space. Hard to believe that's what we're looking at. It's pretty cool. But we also have these ones from NASA itself. They've been posting throughout the morning, and this one shows Earth. It's a pretty cool image there. What does it mean to you to be able to see images like this that are coming from outer space?
It really is. It's almost science fiction, right? And the amazing thing is, I know a lot of these amazing engineers, and I've met those astronauts that are up there right now, and they all came together. I mean, you can imagine the complexity to make a system like this work. Every other nation wanted to go to the moon. We're the only nation that's ever done it. And we are continuing to lead on that technological edge. And it also brings other nations together. The Artemis Accords, as they're called, brought in so many different countries around the world who want to be a part of this mission. And it's a great diplomatic way in which to create stronger bonds. And remember, there's even a Canadian astronaut right now as one of those 4 astronauts as they move at so many thousands of miles an hour towards the moon. And we're all excited, of course, on Monday, the April 6th, they'll be actually circling the moon at that point, going to the dark side of the moon for about 30 minutes. They'll be out of radio contact with us and then slingshotting back home after a 10-day mission.
What are you looking forward to when you see this mission kind of conclude here? It's pretty cool to see all the images, as I mentioned, especially as they get closer and closer to that slingshot around the moon. But when we do have splashdown, how is that going to feel when we know that the astronauts are safely back on Earth and that 10-day mission is complete and, of course, gives way to Artemis II?
That's right. And look, I got to admit, I was holding my breath when the rocket went off on Wednesday. We all know about the challenges that space is hard, is what we like to say here on the Space Coast. And it's really challenging work. And to see that there's brave astronauts taking this challenge on is remarkable, led by this NASA team. And I got to say one other thing here on this. Jared Isaacman, our new leader at NASA, has really changed the dynamic here at NASA. Vibrant leadership. He understands space. After all, he's been in space. He's done a spacewalk, for that matter. He flies fighter jets. I mean, this guy's a self-made billionaire, and he's willing to put his time in to help our country succeed in space. And so as you put it perfectly, Josh, when we land, we know we're one step closer to the moon. And we're going to increase our cadence, meaning we're going to have more launches, not such a big gap between launches, so that we can get to the moon and feel confident we're ready to go. because even with the Apollo missions, they did test runs like this, because this is a very important mission, not just for the science of it all, but we always want to protect those astronauts. And so Artemis 3 and 4, and eventually the landers that will go on the moon, when we make 2 shots at the moon in 2028, we want to make sure we've tested everything to protect their lives and be as safe as possible.
And of course, we go back to the moon, but the big question here is, when do we get to Mars? When do we get to land there on Mars? I know that's probably looking a little bit further into the future, but a lot of people thinking about it.
Well, they are. And here's the good news. I mean, remember that those rockets that put up they went up on Wednesday. To give you an idea of the power of these rockets to break through Earth's atmosphere, that's putting 130,000 NASCAR engines on a rocket. Think about that power, right? If you've ever been to the race at Daytona, 43 engines, can you imagine 130,000 NASCAR engines? That's the power of those rockets and the rocket boosters that are needed to propel us into space towards the moon. And so as you put it perfectly, Josh, how do we get to Mars? Well, we think that we're going to create a moon base and be able to build a rocket on the moon where we don't have to need so much power to get towards Mars. This was an adjustment made. As you know, Elon Musk and others have talked about going from the Earth to Mars. We think it's a better way to take a pit stop, so to speak, at the moon and then head off to Mars, because you don't have that gravitational pull that the Earth has, and you can make that long journey to Mars. As you know, it'll take approximately 6 months to get there. And so I think in your lifetime and mine, we're going to see an astronaut on Mars, and it's going to have a lot to do with the success of these Artemis missions that are coming up and we're in the midst of today.
I mean, just the thought of that, I know I definitely don't want to be on Mars just yet. I want to allow them to go maybe a little bit further first, and then I'll consider it. How about you? Before I, move on to some other topics here, are you ready to go to space?
Oh, I trust me, I would love to go, but I would never cut in line of these major, incredible astronauts. You can imagine the competition to be one of the first 4 astronauts in this Artemis mission. But it's such a thrill. And you do have the ability to actually buy your way on a ship. I think Blue Origin sends folks up for space tourism. One of my good friends, actually, Steve Young in our community, went up on one of those. He said it was just a thrill of a lifetime. And I just love the ingenuity and the belief that, just like John F. Kennedy said back in the 60s, sometimes you just got to throw your hat over the wall and see what's on the other side. And America has experienced some amazing results because of it.
All right. And before I let you go, Congressman, I wanted to ask you a little bit about another topic. You've been on a few times where we've discussed essentially DHS funding and what happens next. And I wanted to ask you where things kind of stand, because we've heard a lot about where things do stand, what happens next. And we heard from Thune just a couple days ago, also heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson. So explain where things stand here and when we could potentially see an end to that shutdown.
Well, the good news is that most of the budget is funded. Of the 12 major bills, we passed 11. The last one here is what we call DHS funding, which is Homeland Security. And as you know, given the fact that we have a conflict overseas, we had 4 incidents on the homeland, 2 in Michigan, 1 in Texas, 1 in Virginia. We need to have the strongest national security possible, Homeland Security. And we're having this fight back and forth because, as Republicans, at least, we believe that the entire agency needs to be funded, not just parts of that agency. Right now, TSA is not fully funded. The Coast Guard, FEMA, they are not fully funded, let alone ICE. And so we've had this back and forth discussion with the Democrats, and we think everybody deserves to get paid. In the meantime, we have moved some money around so the TSA agents are being paid. That airport problem has been kind of solved. And where we are in actual budget process is this. The House Republicans believe you got to fund everything. As you know, what passed out of the Senate was that they would not fund ICE or border security. We think that's a mistake, given the biggest issue, the 2024 elections, were the issue of border security. So I think what we're going to come back with now is this. They're going to send that Senate bill over, and then we're going to add the components for border security there. And we're also going to add the components to make sure that ICE is being paid there through reconciliation, because you know the Democrats won't support that. And so that's how we'll fully fund the DHS program. So we'll be taking the Senate bill that didn't have those 2 components, ICE and border security. We'll add that in the United States House, and that will be the bill that fully funds DHS. The Democrats will get their way in the sense that we won't fund ICE, so they won't have to vote for it. But we'll get that full funding because, again, national security is our number one responsibility as a government.
Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and helping to break all this down. Obviously, a lot of topics that we're covering here. Thank you again for taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you, Josh. Have a great day. And again, Godspeed to our